Today on the program, a completely unexpected engine is saving Stellantis. A tuner famous for its exhaust systems is taking on the Renault 5. Fiat brings back a famous three-wheeled vehicle and Renault has learned from its mistakes. The new Megane becomes unbeatable. Let's talk about a miracle, the kind where you multiply cylinders to save the balance sheet. Forget the lyrical speeches about sustainable mobility and shared scooters. The unexpected savior of Stellantis isn't a revolutionary battery or an artificial intelligence algorithm. It's a good old block of metal that makes noise, drinks gasoline, and has the bad taste of being incredibly thrilling. The V8. Let's recap. Stellantis, this industrial giant with 14 brands, has just released its preliminary figures for the second quarter of 2026 surprise. Global deliveries are up by 10%, reaching 1.6 million units. Note, these are vehicles delivered to dealerships, distributors, or directly to customers, not just registrations. But it's still huge, and what's most fascinating is looking at where the money comes from. North America, the group's crucial market, shows a spectacular increase of 38%. And who do we have to thank for this comeback? The Ram 1500 equipped with its monumental V8 Hemi and its sporty version, TRX SRT, which have the ability to awaken the primal instinct of any typical American buyer. We have to salute the survival instinct of the new boss, Antonio Filosa. Even before presenting his massive Fastlane 2030 industrial plan, worth 60 billion euros, the man made a radical decision. Contrary to the moralizing dogma of his predecessor, Carlos Tavares, he listened to the customers who were mourning the disappearance of their big engines and said, "Give them back the V8, because it turns out that when you stop selling people what they don't want and offer them what they dream of, well, they buy it. And while America is having fun, Europe is doing the math. On the old continent, the increase is more modest, 5%, which means 39,000 additional units. Here you'll find no fire-breathing V8s, just small, clever, practical cars like the Citroën C3 and C3 Aircross, the Opel Frontera, the Fiat Grande Panda. Built on the smart car platform, they get the job done. They're affordable, multi-energy, and fit Europe's far less flamboyant economic reality. But the real lesson of this story, the one that should make all the industry's strategists think, is that automotive passion isn't dead. It was just waiting. Sometimes, to get things going again, all it takes is firing up a V8 and listening to the market roar with pleasure. That doesn't mean you can't offer electric vehicles to those who want them, but there's no need to force them on people who don't. Then, in the automotive industry, there are pairings that defy logic. Take Miltex design, for example. For years, these brilliant Brits have been world-renowned for making exhaust systems that turn tame sedans into decibel-spitting machines. And then the magic of electricity came along. Deprived of an exhaust, a muffler, and a catalytic converter, what could they possibly do with an electric Renault 5? The answer came at the last Goodwood Festival of Speed. They gave it some hips. What Miltex has just unveiled is a spectacular body kit designed for the electric Renault 5 and its cousin, the Alpine A290. And the inspiration wasn't hard to find. It's a direct and deliberate tribute to the legendary 1985 Renault 5 Maxi Turbo. You know, that Group B monster that terrified spectators at the Tour de Corse with its 350 horsepower mid-rear engine and the precise steering of John Ragnotti. Except here, it's 2026, and the smell of gasoline has been replaced by the smell of plastic. Visually, the result is a knockout. The kit includes outrageously widened front and rear fenders with integrated air extractors, a specific flap for the charging port, trim on the rear doors, a huge roof spoiler, and side skirts highlighted with aluminum. If you own the Alpine A290, Miltex even offers you additional LED daytime running lights inspired by rally lamps, thanks to the specific shape of its front bumper. But where the story gets interesting is when you lift the hood, or rather when you don't, because this Miltex kit is the automotive equivalent of a superhero costume on an accountant. The modifications are strictly limited to appearance. Not a single extra horsepower has been added. No changes have been made to the battery, the engine, or the chassis. So you still get 150 horsepower from the Renault 5e Miltex or 220 from the Alpine A290. These are very respectable numbers for the city, but they're quite far from the brutality of Group B. Yet it's precisely this contrast that makes the offering brilliant. Miltex understood two fundamental things about the modern buyer. The first is that he wants the look without the constraints. This body kit uses a removable adhesive system. No sheet metal is cut. No modification is irreversible. You can turn your R5 into a rally car for the weekend and restore it to its original appearance on Monday morning to preserve its resale value. The second thing they understood is the price of nostalgia. Renault is indeed preparing a spectacular production, Spec 5 Turbo 33E, but it will probably be around 200,000 euros. Miltex, for its part, announces its kit at less than 2,400 euros. For that price, you won't win the Monte Carlo and you won't be breaking any records, but you'll probably have the strangest electric city car in your neighborhood. And you, what do you think of this body kit? Let us know in the comments. And by the way, if the idea of driving a Renault 5 tempts you without necessarily wanting to play amateur body shop mechanic, know that the original is currently available starting at 159 euros per month. You can book a free, no-obligation test drive using the link below the video in the description or in the bio. Then, if you close your eyes and think of post-war Italy, you probably imagine a Vespa zipping through the streets of Rome or a Fiat 500 overloaded with suitcases. It's very romantic, but it's not true. Italy wasn't rebuilt by going out for espressos. It was rebuilt by hauling cinder blocks, crates of vegetables, and bottles of Chianti. And for that, it took a machine that had absolutely nothing glamorous about it. The Piaggio AP, a three-wheeled scooter with a bed that got small Italian businesses back on the road as early as 1948. And nearly 80 years later, Fiat decided to take hold of this concept and bring it back to us with an electric twist. Its name, the Fiat Trees. The idea is simple, to provide a basic and indestructible utility vehicle. And the head of micro-mobility at Fiat, Giorgio Neri, has just confirmed that the Tris will arrive in France in mid-2027. So what does the savior of last-mile delivery look like? Not much, and that's exactly what's brilliant about it. The Tris is a license-free electric tricycle, limited to 45 km/h. It measures just 3.17 meters long and 1.5 meters wide. Inside, it's absolutely stripped down, a single seat, handlebars instead of a steering wheel, a small LCD screen to remind you you're lagging behind, and a USB-C port. The real advantage of this machine is behind you. Despite its small size, the Trias can handle 430 kilos of payload. Its 2.25 square meter platform can even swallow a Euro pallet. Fiat will offer it in three versions: chassis cab, flatbed, and pickup. To power all this, a modest 6.9 kilowatt-hour battery offers an announced urban range of around 90 kilometers and recharges in less than 5 hours on a simple household outlet. What's fascinating about the Tris is its positioning. Fiat understood that a cargo bike is great for transporting organic tulips in the Marais, but it's a bit lacking when it comes to delivering half a ton of tiles in the rain. On the other hand, the classic van has become too big, too heavy, and too expensive to get into low-emission zones. The Tris fits exactly between the two. In Italy, it should be priced at around 6,950 euros. But because Fiat is still an Italian brand that can't help but focus on style, they also presented a concept called Tris Dolce Vita. Imagine the rear bed replaced by an open passenger compartment, designed for luxury hotels and seaside resorts. It's a deliberate nod to the Apicalesino, that delightfully retro vehicle that carries tourists along the Amalfi Coast. Fiat hasn't confirmed its production yet, but the idea of seeing this little vehicle replace golf carts on the French Riviera is quite delightful. And finally, just a few months ago, buying an electric Renault Megane seemed like a bad joke. The French manufacturer was asking nearly 40,000 euros for a compact car whose range forced you to do complicated calculations before even considering a weekend trip. That was bold when facing the Chinese MG Armada or the Tesla Steamroller. Naturally, sales plummeted, and at Renault, when the Excel spreadsheet turns red, they bring out the calculator. The result? A facelift, greater range, and a significant price drop. The new Megane 2026 comes with a 67 kilowatt-hour LFP battery, which is cheaper to produce and allows it to surpass the symbolic 500 kilometer WLTP range mark. It's not the revolution of the century, I agree, but it's enough to go a long distance without sweating too much. As for power, it still has 220 horsepower, and fast charging goes up to 165 kilowatts. Charging from 15 to 80% takes 24 minutes. As for the price, the Techno trim is now at 37,500 euros, which is 2,000 euros less than before. And it's not a stripped-down version. 12-inch screen with built-in Google, 19-inch wheels, heated steering wheel, heat pump, adaptive cruise control, and a rear-view camera. In comparison, the Peugeot i308 at nearly 42,600 euros, which is 5,000 euros more, offers less range and a much smaller charging rate of 100 kilowatts. And suddenly, this i308 looks like a relic. Obviously, the Megane isn't perfect, the back seats aren't the most comfortable in the world, but one detail changes everything. It's made in Douai, so the Megane is eligible for the CE bonus. Depending on your income and eligibility, the CE bonus can lower the price by 4,830 to 8,240 euros. In the best case, the Megane drops below 30,000 euros. So, is this restyled Megane one of the best deals right now? On paper, that's a big yes. Renault finally realized you can't sell cars just on industrial patriotism. You need a sensible price-to-features ratio. The overall package is impressive, the equipment is plentiful, and the look with this new, more aggressive front end is quite successful. But you know how it goes, you can line up all the numbers in the world, but in the end, it's behind the wheel that it really matters. If you want to test drive the new Megane, just provide a few details to request one at the dealership and see for yourself if it delivers on the road. It's free and with no obligation. The link is in the description below the video or in the bio. Thank you all for watching this new video. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to make sure you don't miss anything. Bye.